up and then share our screen again. All right. Have you thought about how many questions you want on your exam? Hey, how's it going? Anyone any thought to it?
I haven't been the last two, and I
25? How many? 25 too many?
I don't care how many you put on there.
100?
Just give me a.
100's too many, right? Let's still send me straight to 100.
Yeah.
Right?
Give me a guideline of what you're gonna put on there and what I need to study.
I'm working on it now. I have most of it done, but as we get a little bit closer here, I'll have them all done. I have the first 2 lectures already done, so I can send that out. But it wouldn't be complete of everything on there, but I have no problem sending that out.
I would encourage it for me because you
Okay,
know
I'll be
my
happy to do that.
schedule, you know my
Yeah.
schedule,
So, I'll be happy to do that then. I'll go ahead and do that, so that way. So what you'll see on the review is it'll have just, you haven't been in here before, she hasn't, but other people have, right? You get a list with concepts, right? And then there will be a multiple choice question about it. So for example, let me see if I can find one real quick in here. There. Materialism, right? And it'll say something like, which of these best describes materialism? Holds that the underlying development of the material world determines human consciousness and therefore the boundaries of major human activity. There'll be some other wrong answers in there that'll sound close. You'll pick the wrong one. No, the right one, right? Everyone picks the right one, right? And then good things will happen. So it'll be stuff like that. When you see it, there's 9 from the first section, 16 from the second, and I'm about halfway done with this one, and there was 7, so somewhere between 14 and 15. So altogether for the exam, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 55 to 60, right? And then I can choose however many multiple choice questions you want. If you want 100, we're not doing 100, sorry. But 20, 25, 30 seem to be decent ones with, and then we'll put a time limit on it the same length as a class period, an hour and 15, right? There we go with that. So,
Okay.
if that seems fair, I mean, I don't care how it gets assessed, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, it makes no difference to me because I'm gonna get the same thing. My only goal is to get a realistic measure of who knows something and who doesn't. Right? If you know stuff, that's good. If you don't, I don't call it bad, right? It's not like bad dog, but like not as good, right? So it is what it is. All right. And the essay will be done by this weekend. I'll have that out for you by Tuesday so that you'll have plenty of time to write it. I think I have it scheduled. Hold on, let me look.
Is that at the end of the 16 weeks for the cluster?
No, it's not at the end of the 16 weeks, but yeah, it's like the, hold on, I have it in the thing, no bother, hold on. Sorry. Don't save. This is a disaster. I tried to do some new stuff for my classes. They upgraded it. All right. That's like, it's like upgrading to a Pinto. Right. Terrible. I'm sorry. This is us. Okay. Oh, and I'll put the final one in Republican China today. I just haven't done it yet.
I've got to catch up in your class.
So where is that looking for? Oh, the syllabus. Sorry, my mind is gone today. I have it as during the week of February 8th to the 14th. Is when I have that set up for. So,
The essay.
so
About the essay we're doing.
the essay and the exam. So what'll happen is
In the exam.
the both will be due on February 14th at 11:59 on a Sunday, right? I know that's Valentine's Day, but political scientists, we don't go on dates, right? We live by ourselves, no, right? We don't have social lives, right? No, there's no pretty people in political science, right? So there we go.
So you'll give the lecture question and then we.
I'll give it on Monday
So we can.
or Tuesday, right? Whenever we meet on Tuesday, right? That's the second, so that would give you 12 days.
Yeah.
12 days seems like it should be enough time. It's not enough time because all of you are gonna wait 10 days to start, right? But, it's an idle, so I don't have it done like day 3, but, the rest of you will probably wait for a while. But 12 days pretty much washes my hand of any guilt, right? If I give it to you 12 days in advance, it's not my problem at that point, right? You know, but yeah, 12 days is plenty of time. We're thinking mostly, okay, I just want to go ahead and reiterate this about as clearly as I possibly can. There's no page minimums. There's no page maximums. There should be a maximum. If one of you writes 20 pages, I'll be really mad at you. Probably permanently, right? I don't want to read 20 pages, right?
Come on, but there shouldn't be more than this.
No, there shouldn't be more.
Okay, don't leave us out there, I mean.
There shouldn't be more than 7. There shouldn't be more than 7. If you write more than 7, bad thing. I don't say bad things are going to happen to you, right? I just hope no, right? No. Just don't do more than that. But at the same time, don't write "I like the zoo," right, and turn it in. Sorry, not everyone knows the story. When I was in high school, it's different from what y'all did now, probably all y'all, right? And I lived in Texas, right? And we had the TOS test, right? Texas Assessment of Academic Skills, right? And they made you write those stupid 5-paragraph essays, right? Introduction, 3 body. I don't know if you ever heard of these before, right? And then one at the end, right? And they give you some topic that you can write about, right? And whenever I did the exit exam, I was sitting in this class, you know, with my other pupils, okay? And the question we got was, zoos are a major boon for conservation, donations, all these other things to protect animals. Other people say that it is not ethically right to keep animals in cages. What is your point of view, right? And this guy in the front row, who at 16 had a face tattoo, goes up, turns his in within seconds of getting the prompt, right? And the teacher just starts busting it out laughing, right? And I'm sure it could have got him fired, but he goes, "Do y'all want to know what he wrote?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I like the zoo, period." And then he turned it in. Right? For his 5-paragraph. So when I say, don't just write, "I like the zoo," that's where that story comes from, right? Don't write, "I like the zoo" and turn it in. But yeah, so, all right. I think now we can get started. I hope. Maybe not. Okay, Maoist thought. Okay. Now, it's hard to describe even modern China, even like today's China without knowing about Mao and how bad it was and some of the things that shaped thinking, okay? Because even the leaders after him are either a full protege of his, or they come from similar ideas, okay? Now, when we get to Xiaoping and things like that, you're gonna go, oh, he's different on economic development. But you'll realize that the ideas of struggle, are not gone from the Communist Party even today, okay? They're not gone, they're very, very similar, okay? The database of political institutions, that's what we use to code all of these regimes, has China listed from 1950 to 2010 as a single party authoritarian regime. However, I think that's a wrong coding. I think it's more of what we call a personalist regime, but that's me, okay? All right. Those of you who don't know, there's only a couple of brands of authoritarian regimes. Single party, personalist, military, right? Now, you might go, well, didn't he go on military stuff? Yeah, but he didn't earn his rank through the military. When that usually happens, you're a big time general and you take over. Those are usually reserved for, oh, if y'all in Dr. Perry's class, right? For Latin America, right? They love military dictatorships in Latin America. It's pretty much what you do, okay? So that happens a lot more regularly in Latin America and Africa. But I think because of the cult-like behavior of Mao, I feel like he's more of a personalist dictator, okay? I think now it's probably closer to single party. There's a little bit more input and stuff from actual party officials, as we'll get here in just a second about why I think that, okay? Mao, in short, was a strong leader. He's not weak. He's not asking for people's opinions a lot, okay? He did not shrink from bloodshed, okay? And in fact, it's going to be a determining cornerstone of the Communist Party while he's running it, okay? He wanted not only to govern China, but to change the very nature of Chinese society and culture, to eliminate the country's weaknesses, okay? Ooh. That sounds bad, right? That sounds like purification. And earn it respect in the modern world, okay? Here's the thing, Mao's a revolutionary, right? He's not a bureaucrat. Mao didn't start out working in, housing and urban development division, okay? He's a communist revolutionary. He's not about good governance, but revolutionary change and then being able to control a country are mutually antagonistic, okay? Especially since Mao was a big fan of guerrilla warfare, right? There's a huge difference between having those tactics and then setting up a government and running it. Those are two totally different skill sets, okay? I'll give you an example, but it'll have to expose one of my conspiracy theories. I have a conspiracy theory, one, okay? Only one. Bernie Sanders never wanted to be president. He just wanted to get his ideas out there, right? He would have been really mad if he would have won, right? He would have been really mad if he would have won the primary, okay? Because of these two things, I wouldn't call him a revolutionary in any way, shape, or form, right? I mean, Bernie's not going to be out there leading it with a gun, right? Kill all the people here, right? That's not him, okay? Right? That's not him. But Bernie probably wouldn't be a good president, right?
I agree with your assessment. I don't think he ever wanted to win either. That's not a.
He just wants his ideas out there, and he cares about his ideas, and he cares about democratic socialism. He really likes those things. And he cares deeply about them, right? And I think he does deeply care about people too, right? And how people are going through things. But could anyone realistically see Bernie Sanders as an administrator of the federal government? Wrong, right? It just probably wouldn't go very well, right? Whereas this person would be probably a really good administrator as a president, but already proved he can't get elected nationwide, it's Mitt Romney, right? He would be pretty good in there. He's an administrator, right? You do this, I'm gonna delegate this task, you do this task, I'm going to manage this, right? As a manager on a day-to-day basis, he'd probably be very good. Well, he's already proven he's unelectable nationwide, right? And so these two things are here, and it's not just in China, okay? If you're a revolutionary, you probably are not great at the governance side. If you're good at the governance and the management side, you're not gonna make people happy, right? You're not gonna go out there and be very charismatic because they require two totally different skill sets, right? Does it make sense? And Mao, for all of his problems, realized this, okay? And he knew pretty early on. He's like, look, Mao, the revolutionary, is gonna have to be a lot different than Mao, the head of the party running the country. Right? Those are two different things, and that's the way it goes. All right. Yeah.
I have a question real quick.
Sure.
Is there somebody that has the capabilities of doing both?
Very, very few. Very, very few. It's one of the issues with the American presidency.
Without anybody throwing rocks at me. Donald Trump came pretty close.
I would say that he was much more charismatic than he was. I think he was much more charismatic than he was administrator. Because I remember seeing this thing, right? And I saw one of his rallies when he was running in 20. I think it was in the primaries, right? He said this. He said, we're going to win so much, you're going to call me. Right? And you're going to say, President Trump, we're just winning too much.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to sit there, I'm going to tell you, no, we got to keep on winning. Right? And I thought, man, that guy's kind of out there, right? But then I immediately realized that probably motivated a lot of his supporters and a lot of people that supported him, right? And went, we got to start winning right now, right? And so I always thought, you know, that's an interesting part of it because he did have that business sort of background, so you would expect more of the manager side.
His policies kicked through.
Yeah, you would expect that management side of it to kind of come out, but he's way more charismatic than he was manager.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah, and way
the
more.
capabilities of both is all I'm saying. Some people might not have liked him, but he had the capabilities of both.
Yeah, that's interesting.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
So.
That's interesting.
But he did say stupid stuff, there ain't no doubt.
Yeah.
That made no sense, and that was one of them. Just call him.
I've told undergraduates this,
Keep on winning.
if I was working for him, he'd be banned from a cell phone. I'm deleting Twitter. Well, now it's deleted permanently, right? I think is he permanently banned or just like, he's permanently banned, or are they gonna let him back on sometime, like 10 years from now?
No, they're gonna indefinitely.
Indefinitely, but that doesn't mean permanently, right?
Yeah, the only way they would be able to do that is if they change 230, which I think is coming.
Yeah, well, but that's one of the first things I would have done, right? I'm taking away the phone.
And I agree.
I'm taking away, but here's the thing. It's kind of what makes him charismatic too, is that he uses Twitter with it, right? So
And the other
it's a
75
part of his identity, right? Yeah, so.
They wanted him to tweet. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, that's just the reality of it. The 75 million wanted him to tweet. They loved it.
Yeah.
So your problem's not Trump. Your problem is your country's divided down the middle. That's your problem.
You know, it's kind of funny, and people are gonna be mad whenever I say this out loud. Okay. You know how you decrease polarization? You tell people to stop voting, right? If voting's not that important to you, you don't get polarized, right? Of course, we can't say that out loud, right? You know that, you know what I mean? That the go be involved, go do this, go do that. It increases polarization by huge amounts, right? But of course, we can't go, hey, why don't all of you just stay at home, right? That's undemocratic, right? We don't like it, you know, that sort of thing. It's like, hey, maybe you shouldn't vote. It would decrease polarization, but of course, we can't have that. All right.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
No, of course not, of course.
And
Of course not.
it's not just Donald Trump, it's all of our Democrats and Republicans have made our America polarized.
Yeah.
We're polarized because of.
You know, that's a question. That's a question on the, when I was in graduate school, that was a question on the American Politics Comprehensive Exam.
Really?
Was, does polarization come from the mass public or does it come from elites?
Elites, every time.
But you know, we're kind of divided too, right? Individuals, right? And we go and vote for them, right? And we vote for some of the more polarizing ones. If we weren't polarized in the mass, you know what I mean? It's kind of those chicken or the egg things, right? It's supposed to make you think about it a little bit.
But because somewhere in the middle, the reason why we do this is because somewhere in the middle, those polarizing people have good stands on things. And so that's where they find the common ground, is when they have a decent stand in an area.
I don't know where I stand on whether the
Because
elites
Donald
polarize.
Trump's not all bad, Barack Obama wasn't all bad.
Nobody's all bad.
Oh, Joe Biden is not all bad. They just, and they have good policies sometimes, and so people latch onto those policies.
Yeah, and then just forget all the bad,
Yes, they
Right.
do.
you know?
It's absolutely.
Yeah, and then for that one policy, we'll look, either way, right? We'll look the complete opposite way, right? You know, that's for blind spot, right? To get one thing we want, we'll look away at all the bad, right? So that happens, that happens in our life too, right? We all,
That's right.
be in a relationship with someone, right? They got some good qualities, but they got some terrible ones, right? Do we focus on the bad? No, we think that good thing, we can just make that better and better and better, and then we can they can modify just a little bit on the Italian, and then everything's gonna be okay. And it never works out that way, right? So there we go. All right. Enough about this terrible country. Let's talk about a different one that's terrible. All right. All right. Now, and his colleagues were no anarchists, though. Okay? They weren't. They're true believers in Marxist-Leninist type of ideology. Okay? So they realized they're going to have to be able to develop powerful bureaucracies to govern China. Now, Mao, in his heart, hates the Soviet Union and he hates Joseph Stalin. Okay? He's gonna hate Khrushchev too whenever he gets in. But for now, we'll just go with hating Stalin. Okay? But he saw what the Soviets did. They needed to have bureaucracies. They needed to have, you know, the most famous intelligence agency in the world that everybody knows? It's not the CIA. It's the KGB, right? Everybody knows the KGB. That's a powerful intelligence bureaucracy, okay? Mao saw that just as well as anyone else, okay? That those things needed to be set up, okay? Additionally, they had to undergo an industrial revolution and gain economic power, okay? Because they have to be able to get into the international arena, okay? Let's talk a little bit about this for a second. Mao hates Stalin, okay? He will, no matter what. He believes Stalin was the one that got 90% of his comrades killed by going back to the Guomindang right before the Fifth Annihilation Campaign. And so he's very anti-Stalin, anti-Soviet Union, okay? In 1949, how likely is it that the United States is going to align themselves with a communist revolutionary? Zero, right? Completely zero, okay? And in fact, the United States deserts China, okay? When Chiang Kai-shek was around, they really liked him, okay? Because one of the reasons was Chiang Kai-shek, he liked to exterminate communists, right? The United States is anti-communist at the time. So what did the United States do once Mao took over? They deserted China, even though they were going to be partners under Chiang Kai-shek. What happens is they go to Japan. They set up the San Francisco Treaty. We put the nuclear umbrella under Japan. They are our one ally in East Asia, okay? And so Mao's got nowhere to go, okay? He can't buddy up with anyone, really. There's no one for him to buddy up with. So in order to be taken seriously in the international arena, he's gonna have to become an economic powerhouse to where they can't ignore them, okay? Does that make sense? That's a big, big problem, okay? All right. The other thing is, Mao is real weird. Weird in the sense of he espoused a whole bunch of things in his writings and his speeches that just weren't the way he lived his life, okay? He promoted a puritanical society, but he was a prodigious womanizer, okay?
No.
Mao
A woman?
had more wives than Donald Trump. Right? To be fair to Mao, though, one was executed. He didn't execute her. The Kuomintang did. Okay. He stressed the importance of simple living, but made extensive use of lavish residences built for his exclusive pleasure around the country. Okay. We should be poor, except me. Right? Everyone should live a simple life, except me. Everyone should be faithful to their wives, except me. All right? And so it's always that one thing to put out there about him is not that he was this one sort of character, but that he often went against even his own core principles. Okay. So good job. All right. But isn't that all rulers like that? That's Saddam Hussein the same way, right? The Ayatollah has nice places. And that branch of Islam tells you to do the opposite, right? Saudi Arabia, right? It's like example one, all right? So you see that pretty regularly. Bernie Sanders has 3 houses.
Does he?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
you got 3 houses, right? All right. Mao Zedong believes that China's malaise had been caused first of all by exploitive imperialist forces, right? Let me just go ahead and make it easy for you. Every communist party thinks that if there had been no imperialism, everything would be perfect, okay? He was keenly sensitive to the internal weaknesses that made the country vulnerable to external aggression. Okay. We go, what were those weaknesses? They were poor. Okay. They were poor, but a lot of land. Okay. Land rich, resource poor. What that means is, yeah, you could pull up millions of conscripts for some sort of a war, but they wouldn't be qualified to fight. You wouldn't have enough money in order to arm them anyways. And so it makes it very open to someone taking you over. Okay. All right. These internal problems, Mao believed, were substantially cultural. Okay. They were cultural. We don't like that word in political science, do we? Cultural. We don't like it. The Confucian notions of civil identity based on networks of relationships precluded the broader class identity and ardent nationalism. Okay, remember that Confucianism is, I don't want to say tribal, but kind of tribal, right? They're all in this little area. Families go through generations. They're always sticking together, right? They don't ever leave. Whereas to have communism, you don't really feel that in the same way. Family is not nearly as important, okay? It is your class. What class are you a part of? And that class struggle, right? Which we're gonna get to, not today, next time. Okay. All right. You have to have class identity. If you don't have that as a big part of identity in your nation, it's really hard to set up communism. Okay, you have to have it all the time. All right. Art nationalism, part of being a nationalist if you only care about your family. Right? Yeah. All right. Mao eventually just stops listening to people. What's the saying? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Right? That's what happened for Mao. He just stopped listening to anybody by the mid-1960s. Famously, not even his doctors could tell him what to do. Right? Take this medicine. Are you telling me what to do? No, sir. Right? That's not good. You want your doctor to be able to tell you what to do, right? But for the most part, Mao wasn't even doing that. Again, that's not dissimilar from other sort of dictators.
Well, did he not trust him?
I don't think it is that he didn't trust him. I think it is that he thought he knew better. There's not a lot of attempts on, I mean, I'm trying to think of it. There's no real attempts on Mao's life at any point. You know, when we think of the Third Reich or something, there were at least 10 attempts on Adolf Hitler's life from inside the Third Reich at different points. People were constantly trying to eliminate him. No one was really trying to eliminate Mao. He may not have liked what other people were saying, but I don't think he ever thought, I don't think he was scared of assassination attempts in the same way that Adolf Hitler would be, or Mussolini, or some of these other dictators like that. Stalin had multiple attempts as well against his life. Yeah, Khrushchev, I think, had attempts against his life. Almost everyone in the Soviet Union had attempts against their life. But yeah, Mao, not as much. Okay. So what did he do about this? So whenever people would come and say something to him that challenged Mao or made him think or made him reassess, I think he said, that's a really great question. Thanks for asking that. Absolutely not. He responded with punishment formally, right? And bloodletting, okay? I wouldn't say that Mao's bloodthirsty, but he doesn't care when blood gets spilled. You know what I mean? He's not, something that is truly bloodthirsty. He's not an Idi Amin, right? Idi Amin of Uganda, right? Who was about as bloodthirsty as it gets. But Mao certainly didn't care. Okay. He didn't care at all. Okay. All right. Bloodletting and tragedy. Those two things go together. All right. Okay. We're going to talk about some of the main parts of Marxist-Leninist sort of ideology, but how it got altered under Mao. Okay. Some of these things you'll see in Karl Marx, right? You'll see in Leninism, but they're slightly modified for Mao, okay? Remember that the Marxism of the Soviet Union always relies on sort of the intellectuals, okay? and city life and that class struggle from people having to get in a small place and go to the factories and work every day. Mao's communism is different, okay? Mao's from the rural areas. He truly believes in the peasant farmers over and over and over again. He really believes that they struggle, and when they struggle, they bind themselves together to be stronger than they were before, okay? That's going to be a main part of this, okay? All right. Marxism itself propagates a philosophical theory called materialism, which holds that the underlying development of the material world determines human consciousness and therefore the boundaries of major human activity. Okay? Materialism. You might have heard it in random English classes, right? You ever heard of post-materialism? Right? We're past this now. No, we're not, just for the record. Okay? We still want what's on TV, right? When you see the apple, that looks nice, right?
China's capitalized on that today.
Absolutely. 100%. More than I think Mao would have ever envisioned, right? He would probably have been pissed that we were selling stuff to the West, actually. Okay? Although maybe if it was a part of developing a national identity and things like that, but you know, those industries are very exploitive, you know, to which China exports, right? Fabrics, that's an exploitive industry if there ever was one. I can't imagine a real old school communist like Mao being okay with the workers being exploited. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, or to build it, right? Or, that's it. That's really interesting though, whether he'd be okay with it or not. Because it definitely made him more powerful, made him useful in the international arena, which is one of his goals, right?
What about using outside?
He'd be okay with that.
I think he would. I mean,
But the problem is you got to put all these people in basically, you know, factories like that. And it would also be that he'd probably be pissed off at the cities and that it's not rural anymore. Right? He'd probably be upset about that. But that's interesting though. Yeah. All right. Mao went a step further. Although he always claimed to be a materialist, his lifelong activities were based on the conviction that properly motivated people could overcome virtually any material odds to accomplish their goals. Okay? Materialism drives people on a day-to-day basis. I don't think that's crazy. Okay? One of the things probably Marx gets right. Right? But Mao is different in the sense that he doesn't believe that it has to control everything. He believes that if you mobilize and if you motivate people enough, they can shed materialism, okay? And it may only be for a short time, right? But to accomplish some goal, okay? And you do see that every once in a while. And Mao's a big, big fan of together we can do things that shouldn't be possible in the capitalist world. Therefore, we're better, right? Does that make sense? We're able to shed these things. All right. Mass line. Okay, mass line is a little bit different. Okay. Let's get into it before we think about the difference between the Soviet Union and this. He poured the Confucian notion that rulers know what to do because of their mastery of classical doctrine, and that therefore the poorly educated masses must simply obey their superiors. Okay? He doesn't believe that. Okay? The CCP, especially in the area where they were kind of relegated, right, and the nationalists had taken over, the Yan'an era, the CCP developed a leadership doctrine dubbed the mass line that incorporated both the vanguard role of the party and a strong participatory role for the populace. All right. The idea is that leaders of the party should always be close enough to the populace that they can know what is going right for them and what is going wrong from them. Okay? You know how we do this in the United States? Congressional districts, right? We put them in small little areas, right? To where they have to go get votes. Therefore, they always have to go back there and ask people what's going on, right? Or try to see what's going on, okay? This is just this is a part of a feedback that political parties, and I think we can name the CCP one, and also Democratic parties have to do. They have to figure out what's going on in the electorate, okay? In China's case, we would call it the selectorate, right? Because they select a leader rather than to elect one, okay? These officials would report their understanding of the hierarchy to provide the leaders a good sense of what people would welcome and implement and what they would not. Okay. Sounds like intelligence work, doesn't it? So at the beginning, I suspect it was very obvious. Oh, the person coming in, how are you feeling? I'm so-and-so with the party at this local level. How are things going for you right now, right? And as it became more and more distrustful and more authoritarian, I imagine they put random people in there that were supposed to blend in, right? And especially as CCP leaders got further and further away, it is done through intelligence work more than anything else, okay? That's how the Soviet Union did it, right? Stalin didn't go ask people what they were feeling, right? He had KGB operatives and all these other things. If you even go back to the military junta in Argentina, he's doing the same exact thing. And most famously, there's a famous political science article about how Perón actually got, he infiltrated knitting groups in Argentina, women's knitting groups, right? Yeah, knitting, right? Because they're the ones that knew all the politics of the whole family, right? They knew everyone all the way down, right? Everyone talks to their mom, right? Everyone talks to their sister, okay? Brothers and dads, sometimes they kind of get separated, right? Want to go one way, want to go the other. But that's how they did it there. That's how the military government would do it. They would actually infiltrate women's knitting groups in Argentina. It's a famous article about it. It's great. Wow. So that's why when I tell people, this is what I tell people. I'm a presidential candidate. First place I'm sending my wife to go do TV, The View. First and last place, right? Go on The View. Trust me. We probably get a lot of softball questions. They're easy to answer. And especially if it's a male candidate, right? They can do the softer side of their spouse that doesn't come across in political media, right? It's called soft news interviewing. That's the place to go, right? To expose people to them as a person, right? Rather than a candidate. And so not enough people do it, right? So, all right. Mass line was means to alleviate two problematic tendencies of dictatorship, losing touch with popular sentiment, which they do, okay? And generating political apathy among people who come to believe they cannot influence their own leaders, okay? It gives them also a buy-in to the system. Okay? If the mass line is working correctly as Mao originally does in Yan'an, right? You don't feel helpless even if you're a peasant, right? I know there's a party leader that's going to come to this meeting, right? Or come to this, food line, or come to this organizational thing. And if I'm really feeling bad about it, he can bring it all the way up the chain. I'm not hopeless, and I have a way to reach out if I need to, okay? All right, that's in theory though, right? Not in practice, okay? Just the same way that our congressional districts are supposed to work in that way, but they sometimes don't, okay? I've never met Congressman Pfluger. Right? I've never met him, right? I had met Conway several times, right?
had?
I have multiple times. He used to do town halls on campus, so,
Really?
sometimes with his chief of staff, we would organize things in the library lecture hall, that sort of stuff, for Mike Conway's. And they weren't big deals. They were I mean, they weren't like the town halls, where people come with pitchforks, right, and flames, and we're gonna burn it down or anything like that. They were mostly very respectful, but he was out there and doing this sort of things. But in a lot of congressional districts, they never ever see their person. I haven't seen Pfluger yet, right? I know it sounds weird because he just took office, but it'll be in February, right? Maybe we'll see him soon.
A lot of your Republicans are, just being honest with you, they're fearful to go to,
Town halls.
Universities.
Oh, I can see that. After a while, hopefully, but also I have a feeling too, I think we're much likely to have a Pfluger town hall at, what's it called? San Angelo State? Whatever it is, that other university, San Angelo, because he's from San Angelo, right? San Angelo's in this congressional district, right? So maybe that's why too.
I don't think they work hard enough anyways.
Yeah, and so.
I think there's several things they could do to.
Sure.
This is where I'm going, so I have my opinions on what I think, but I mean, I think they could do better when it comes to exposing themselves and getting out with.
Trust me, I don't want any congressman exposing themselves.
Oh,
That was too easy, right?
That one was pretty good.
Trust me, we don't want, no, but I wanted to compliment Pfluger. He had this really cool Air Force ad that I saw one time on TV.
It was one time.
It was one time, right? I think it was on CBS 7 or something like that.
Maybe twice.
Maybe twice. It was a funny commercial. I kind of liked it or whatever. So I was kind of like, I wanted to tell him good job, but I haven't seen him around. All right. So Conway never ran any ads.
No.
To this day, I don't think I've seen a Mike Conway ad. I lived here since 2010.
Okay, look at his tenure though. He hardly, I mean, there were several years he didn't even go contested.
Yeah, and
No one ran against him.
and he did talks here on campus.
80-something% of the, I mean.
Easy,
Yeah.
easy 80% of the vote sometimes. What's crazy is for an area that's so wealthy, right? This area is pretty wealthy. He was one of the poorest members of the House by net worth. He was only worth, I know it says only worth, he was only worth like $700,000, right? Which is amazing, being from this area, being a congressperson, only being worth $700,000 is outrageous, right? Because there's so many people that have, net worth and the tens of millions out here, right? So that's why.
Watch that tenure though, in the next 10 years, this is a guarantee, that will change.
Either you're gonna get poor or that.
I think you're fixing to see an election of just common folk.
All right, let me keep going here. I'm already behind. As fun as I'm having, as much fun as I'm having, I'm already behind. Good. All right. Now, I can't we're gonna have to stop there because campaigns and struggle is at least an hour. Because I gotta talk about a whole bunch of other things. We gotta talk a little bit about the violence, right? Mal, very good at, okay? His people, very, very good at. But we need to talk about it a little bit more closely. Hold on. All right, so I'm gonna stop recording. Audrey looks like she's having fun, right? So.
I'm hanging out with my cat. Do you want to see him?
Okay, at least we're all